I'm Al McFarland. Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarland. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Today is Thursday, February 12th, 2026, and we continue to focus on what's happening in Twin Cities and around the world. We know that we are kind of the epicenter of the quest for accountability, for justice, for restoration that comes from, in recent years, the elevated consciousness that flowed out of the horrific injustices that include the murder of George Floyd, the murder of Philando Castile, and recently the murders of two citizens in South Minneapolis at the hands of the federal government, those being Renee Good and Alex Preddy. And today we're going to just continue examining, policy issues here in Minnesota, the latest news in Minnesota, but also national, international policy issues as well. I'm pleased to have co-piloting with me today and for the next several weeks, my friend and colleague, James Trice. James Trice is with the Public Policy Institute, Public Policy Project. James, yes, brother, good to see you. We had a great conversation yesterday. Yes. I look forward to continuing it today. How you doing, man?
Same here. I'm beautiful, man. How are you?
I'm well. And so the main thing for us, how I see this, James, is two brothers talking. We're going to be a third in a minute when we bring in Brother Clarence D. Castile, but brothers talking, having just a straight up conversation. Right. And the idea is the clarity, the intentionality, the honesty with which we address each other and the issues we're concerned about. We simply are being straight up and being for real. And we're doing that in a way where on these platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, we're inviting a lot of more people to be involved in the conversation, to share their thoughts, their ideas. In fact, if you want to be in the conversation over the course of the next hour, we'll list on the screen a QR code. You can click on that and we'll invite you into the conversation to agree or disagree, with anything we say or bring new ideas to the conversation. We welcome that. And we think it's important that we talk to each other. That's the name of the game. Talk to the people, talk to each other, and let the world know how we feel, how we see ourselves, how we see the world, and what we believe is our mission to improve the world for ourselves, our families, our neighborhoods, and for humanity itself. Let me first of all bring in Brother Clarence D. Castile. He is among other things, a philanthropist. He's leading a project called Microgrants. He serves as CEO, and the mission is called Lights Out. It's a unique proposition, and he's uniquely qualified to speak to the value, the need, the vision of the microgrant program, the Lights Out initiative in particular, because it's personal for him. Brother Clarence, good afternoon. Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarland.
Good afternoon, Al and James. And Al, before we go too further, it's lights on.
I said lights out, lights on. Thank you, appreciate it. The screen is so tiny.
Yeah.
That I couldn't read what the.
And it's okay. It's just funny, and it's okay. And I'm glad we could.
Lights out, lights on. You're right. I see. I made my screen bigger now.
Yeah, so it's got an exclamation point at the end of it.
There we go. Yeah. Well, let's talk about what is lights. That's a great way to get into this. Tell us about Lights On. And
so what I would like to do is start out just talking about the mission of microgrants, and then we'll lead into what Lights On does as well. Okay. Mm-hmm. The mission of microgrants is to spur economic and self-sufficiency by giving strategic and timely grants to low-income people of potential, boosting them into financial independence. Our grants are up to $2,500, focused on helping grantees obtain well-compensated jobs. We focus on 3 interrelated areas: education, training, and entrepreneurship. We work with partner agencies who recommend grantees and help them complete applications and follow up on the progress along the way. These partnerships allow us to reach out to more individuals in culturally component ways. Our grants fill a funding hole that grantees couldn't find elsewhere. There is always a waiting list for deserving individuals, Without the micro grants, these individuals would be delayed or denied access to certain funds. Since our founding in 2006, micro grants has provided more than 5,000 grants to individuals to advance their goals. In our most recent survey, 99% of grantees had either already achieved their goals or they had set out to achieve and were still actively engaging and pursuing these goals. All micro grant grantees are low income and 87% are people of color. We define organizational success as a continued pipeline to high potential program participation. Now, Lights On, this program was developed because of the death of my nephew, Philando Castile, when the police officer said he had tail lights out in his car. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to bypass the script and tell you the story that I heard from the founders of Lights On, which was Joe Savaggio. You probably know him.
I knew Joe.
Tom Walsh, and Don Samuels, another staple person. Don, yeah. Mm-hmm. So Tom Walsh brought the idea forward because of what had happened to Phil. He was just curious, was there a program out there doing anything to help people that were in situations like that? And so Don Samuels went on the search to find organizations that were helping people with those sorts of issues, and there were none. So then they decided to create the Lights On program. And back in 2017, Phil was killed in 2016. And so they started working on it at the end of 16 and didn't get it flushed out until 17 when the program started. And the program just took off like wildfire. And I'm jumping ahead by saying this, but we had over last year, 2025, we had 150 police departments in the state of Minnesota, and another 40 police departments nationally in 21 states that were participating in the program. So I'm just going to go back to my script. It says here, Lights On is an award-winning program of micro grants with the mission of healing police and community relations. Through partnerships with law enforcement and auto service providers, Lights On replaces traffic tickets with repair vouchers. Cars are repaired at no cost to the driver, which means safer cars on the roads, and lower income drivers avoid the downward spiral of a costly equipment violation ticket and a repair. Voucher recipients take a survey while their cars are being repaired, so we have a demographic. 1 in 3 recipients' households is under $30,000, as well as having testimonials about the police interaction. 99.2% are satisfied or very satisfied with the interaction with the officer that gave them the voucher. Whereas most of our recipients, 42%, are BIPOC or people of color. You know what I'm saying here. Mm-hmm. And like I said before, Lights On is available nationally, and it is currently in 22 states and 175 law enforcement officers. But the Lights On program, there's 3 ways to deploy a voucher. And one is through your traditional police stop where they pull somebody over. We found that talking with some people like my sister, Valerie Castile, the mother of Philando, she shared that traffic stops, especially in the BIPOC community, carry a lot of trauma. Mm. So we had to develop some ways that we could deploy those vouchers without pulling a person over. Mm-hmm. So we came up with the help of the Target company, a program that's called Sidewalking Streets, which the Sidewalking Streets event removed the traffic stop component while keeping the other hallmarks of the program in place, which is enhanced police and community relations, keeping safer cars on the road, and helping low-income drivers. This block style type party event is hosted by local law enforcement officers for the residents to pick up these vehicle related items such as lights now you got me done, Lights On vouchers, sometimes car seats, anti-theft devices like steering wheel column brakes, and we also have food, and we give out bicycles and scooters for the kids, because it's a really nice family-oriented type of voucher event. It really is community-oriented, and we invite tabling partners to come to this particular type of event to bring resources, things of that nature. So it's a really another good way to engage the community without having the trauma of pulling somebody over. Mm-hmm. And then there's another way, which is called an informational way of giving it, in which a police officer would take down your license plate number while they see you driving, get your license plate number, and then they'll have it ran down at the department, and then they'll send you a letter. They'll send you a letter in the mail and tell you, hey, we saw this car, it had a light out, we have a voucher for you at this particular police department. Mm-hmm. You can come and get it, or we can mail it to you. And that's another way of delivering it via no stop method. And it's everything has its issues, but that's the programs, micro grants, that's Lights On.
Yeah,
and that's it. Go ahead.
Well, it's a wonderful program. I mean, I think about, as you're talking about it, how traumatic a stop can be. James, you and I talked yesterday about just the idea of driving and seeing the lights behind you. Boom. And because of our lived experience, we know that it could always possibly mean something, unnecessary and devastating. We just don't know. And despite our best intentions of being cooperative, understanding, civil, things can turn left because somebody's having a bad day. And so I recall Clarence, I had for a while, kind of like a nephew. We were keeping family friends, young kid with us for, about a week or so. It's like a dozen years ago or more. And kid, I was picking him up from school. We're driving up Penn Avenue, regular route. He like me, 4th to 5th grade kid. He looked into the side view mirror and saw a squad car behind us. There wasn't no lights or anything, but he went into a state of agitation that surprised me. And he said, Uncle Al, 5-0 behind us. I said, yeah. What are we gonna do? Nothing. So the point is, I'm saying, why is this kid, his body is reacting, involuntarily, and he's speaking this trauma and fear. And so that's a big deal, and we don't talk about it enough. But you have to talk about it because you have the family experience with Philando. Tell us about that, and talk about how this is one of the ways to reduce the trauma that is ambient, that's around in the ecosphere because of our experience. And James, jump in when you want to. But Clarence, talk about homage to the trauma your family experienced and how you're healing. Yeah, go ahead.
So when I hear this and I think about this young man that was riding with you, the first thing I think is historical or generational trauma. And it's information. I mean, this kid is what, like 5 or 6 years old, or 8 years old, or 10 years old, and has never really experienced anything like this, but has heard things, have seen people react in a certain way, and he's basically mimicking some of the things that he's seen because he hasn't heard anything different. After the death of my nephew, I did what I call a community. It was a community educational forum. That's what it was. And I wanted that. What we talked about was how to handle a police stop, understanding that you don't have to wait to be de-escalated. If you see a situation is escalating, know what to do to bring that situation down yourself instead of waiting for somebody else to control it. because sometimes the people that you think is going to control it, they don't do it properly, and that's how people get hurt. We have to know how to recognize when situations are going awry. In the case with your nephew, I just think he had been misinformed, and that all police was bad police. Even though I am a grown man, when those cherries light up behind me, the hairs on my neck still stand up. And I know I ain't did nothing wrong. I know I can talk to the person that's going to come to my car window, whether he's had a bad day or not. I know exactly what to do to put that person at ease. I know not to agitate a situation. And that's one of the things, Al, you're talking about. We need to engage people, whereas they understand and know how to do that as well. We don't have to. I've had conversation with some other people and I say, I used to use a catchphrase, comply and not die, to understand de-escalation, like I'm said, and not wait for somebody else to control the situation, have an idea and be a part of where that situation is going to go and make sure that it's in a positive direction. I'll let somebody else speak now.
Well, no, just before you do, walk us back through Philando's story.
Yes.
So I think we should hear that again, if you don't mind sharing it.
When Phil was killed, it was a situation that shouldn't have went the way it did, because he did his best to be compliant. He offered information that wasn't even asked. He tried to get out ahead of it, and he ended up losing his life because he tried to get ahead of it. And thinking in retrospect, maybe there's something, one or two little nuances that he could have did to make that situation a little bit different. Now I'm speaking on Phil's behalf because I don't know what the other guy was doing, the cop. I couldn't get into his shoes at all.
Right.
But me on the outside looking in, I could just say, I say this: if you ever having a conversation with a police officer, with somebody who's got a gun, somebody who's got control, keep your eyes on them. Keep your eyes on them and listen to them. Make sure there's no misunderstanding about the words that's being said, the instructions that are coming across, and that's in that case with Phil. I wasn't there, but he needed to keep his eyes on that man and keep that contact, that eye contact, and make sure, hey, we're cool. We're all little Fonzies. We're all cool right here. This is going to be all right. And we'll work our way through it. But, it shouldn't have turned out the way it did.
Larpenteur Avenue, I think, in Little Canada. Is that what
Larpenteur and Fry, right there in Falcon Heights, right behind the fairgrounds, right on the fairground.
And as I recall, just a routine traffic stop.
No, it was not a routine traffic stop. It was an intentional traffic stop. The cop called into the dispatch and say, "Hey, I see a guy here. He looks like a suspect from a robbery. He's got a wide set nose, something like that. And I'm going to pull him over and tell him that his tail light was out." That's how the whole tail light thing got involved in there. And he had dashboard cam. He didn't have body cams at that particular stop. And the conversation ensued. He asked Phil for driver's license and insurance. Phil had the insurance at a reachable place. He gave him the insurance, and he told him, "I need your driver's license." And Phil told him, I got to tell you, I have a firearm on me. So the cop says, "Don't reach for it." So I'm assuming at that point, Phil was still reaching for his driver's license in his back pocket. And the cop goes, "Don't reach for it." And Phil says, "I'm not reaching for it," but he was probably still reaching for his wallet. He said, "I ain't reaching for the gun. I'm reaching for," he didn't say that, but I'm sure that was his intention, was to continue reaching for the wallet. And after that, I think he said it one more time. And then Diamond says he ain't reaching for the gun. And Phil says, "I ain't reaching for the gun." And that's when he shot. He fired 7 shots into the car with Phil, his girlfriend, and a baby in the car. What I've learned about police training and different scenarios and things like that, he should have, if he felt like there was a gun, he should have really, that's when you take control of a situation as a police officer. escalate to a different, posture and take control of the situation without using deadly force.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the gun wasn't out.
Mm-hmm.
There was no threat, but I mean, I'm not a lawyer, and
sure.
I have learned some things about police procedure, from being a member of the post board. And it's just talking to cops. I talked to a lot of cops. I was a police reserve officer. So I had opportunities to talk about this situation with several different police officers. And you'd be amazed at the opinions I got, but the public opinions are different than the personal opinions,
Explain. What do you mean?
Cops, my friends as cops told me that certain things they would have or wouldn't do, but it's something that they wouldn't say on the radio or on the news.
Right.
That's what I mean. They would tell me one story and then wouldn't say it out in public.
Okay.
But I learned a few things, and I learned things right away because it was so important to understand these things. And that was why I went ahead and followed up with being a police reserve, because I wanted little kids and Black people in the neighborhood to see me with that uniform on. Clarence Castile, the uncle of Philando Castile, wearing a uniform. Why? Some people said, why are you doing this, brother? I said, because I want to learn some of the moves that cops make, and I can bring it back to the community and explain it to our kids and give them another way of handling situations, knowing what de-escalation means, knowing what to look for, and that most of the time, there's no reason to be afraid of a police officer, especially if you ain't done nothing.
That's right.
But we have so many examples where the innocent victim gets killed. We got so many examples of that too. So that right there creates more stress, more trauma, more fear. I mean, there's been plenty of times where I've talked to young men, and when I talk to them about that de-escalation thing and not being afraid of the cops, and they're like, man, screw that, I'm running. A bullet can't turn no corner, saying stuff like that. And I'm like, no, man, that ain't the way to go. That ain't the way to go. But these young folks, they just think in a different way. And I haven't given up on them. I'll continue to have my conversations with them and try to give them a more positive way of looking at things and handling situations, especially things with the police, because it's real easy for them to say, I fear for my life. And that's all they have to say. And that shouldn't be the case, because the way I see it, a cop shouldn't fear from nothing.
Right. Yeah, you got the weapons and the backup.
Man, you shouldn't fear for nothing.
Right. And so it kind of amazes you when you watch the tape of the my words execution of Renee Good
and that Alex Purdy kid.
And Alex Purdy, it's amazing. Yeah. All of these officers are there, and they've got the situation and the perimeter and everything in control, and yet they decide to use lethal force.
That's a different look, Al.
Yeah,
that stuff is so out of control, man. It's just utter chaos with these ICE and Border Patrol people. They're doing things so clandestine. They're not being open and honest and transparent with the local police departments. And they call the local police departments when everything that just went crazy. And it's like, now we'll call you guys to get some help, but it's like, it's a shit show. Excuse my language, but just a show of all that. And it's like beyond pulling this back. We got to go to Beirut before we can pull it back. It's got to turn into Beirut, and then we can pull it back, And it's like, if we would have just communicated, if the feds would have communicated with the locals before they went in there, so that they could have, crowd control or protection when they go in and serve a pseudo warrant or whatever it was, or collect some people. If they had people in place to help them already, I believe they would have had less chaos. That's what I believe. And I'm sure a lot of other law enforcement and citizens believe that as well. Because nobody's saying that immigration control is wrong. Nobody's saying it ain't supposed to be done. It's just there's a way you're supposed to do things. if you want to protect the sanctity of life.
And nobody is saying we don't want law and order.
No.
Nobody is saying we don't want to be living in fear in our neighborhoods, and even in our families. So nobody that I know of wants to eliminate the role and responsibility of the police department and of law enforcement, but everybody wants best practices. And that
Exactly.
is a humane and consistent and transparent and predictable set of reactions and responses, or set of activities by those entrusted with this power of life and death. James, jump in, man. Speak to both your memory of the Philando Castile incident, and that in the context of things that happened before and after the history of people being eliminated at the hands of the government, either the city, the county, the state, now the federal. And where are we now? Where do we go from here?
Well, thank you so much, Al. And Brother Clarence, before I even get started, I just wanted to say again, man, my heart still goes out to you and your family for the loss of Philando. He will forever be remembered, and his life and the way it was taken out, I think is a landmark for us to really think about and say, how do we change this situation? So I want to say, first of all, man, my heart still goes out to you, man. And thank you for really the work that you're doing, man, to be able to do it. I also want to say, man, I'm really amazed at your willingness and ability to be able to still interact with police officers after what happened to your nephew. I mean, when you talk about the post board, a lot of people don't know what the post board is, and I would like you to talk more about that. I know somewhat about what it is, but a lot of people need to understand who they are and what they do. But I am amazed, man, at your willingness and your ability to be able to do that. I don't know if I can do what it is you're doing. I've just got to be honest with you.
But there's a lesson here, and the lesson is about leaning into a situation.
Yes, it is.
What you've done, Brother Clarence, it seems to me, is where tragedy occurred, trauma, you've leaned into it and not run from it, not hidden from it, but you've taken on the responsibility of leaning into it and trying to bring healing, awareness, and change for everybody. And it's not us against them. It's how do we make this thing work for all of us? That's how I'm reading your work and your activity, which I call heroic.
It is. It's heroic, and at the same time, it's astounding. I just got to be honest with you, man. Philando Castile, and again, God rest his soul, wasn't the first.
No.
Right, and he's not going to be the last. We have a long history of a tense relationship with law enforcement because we know how they were created. They started off as slave patrols. I mean, let's be real about that, right? And so I don't think that they've changed their tactics, right? Because we know you talk about how we de-escalate, how we keep our eyes on the police officers, and how we do the thing we need to do. But there's so many cases of people doing the right things and still being taken out by law enforcement. Just real. Secondly, they use this narrative, I'm afraid for my life. Man, that's a false narrative to excuse the behavior, and also in courts of law to be able to justify and be able to get leniency by jurors to say, yes, he must have been afraid for his life. And the reason why that narrative exists is because they have a perception of Black people that we are criminals, right? America sees Black men as America's villains. That's the perception of Black people. So they show up already on 10. They're ready because their perception about Black people is that we're criminals. So they don't show up any other kind of way. They don't show up with white people. Like I've seen white people slap cops and still get still just get arrested, taken in, no harm done to them. I've seen white people run from police officers. They don't get shot down, like Scott in North Carolina. I mean, these kinds of incidents happen, right? So the police on this thing, and I don't think they've repudiated or removed this idea that we are threats just simply being. So when young black men say to you that that they don't trust the police and they're going to run, they have reason to. It's like, look, I either run or I'm going to get killed. So if I run, I may have a chance to get away from this. I want to save my life. And many times complying does not mean that I'm not going to die.
That's right.
Right. And so, Al, how old was your nephew? How old was he?
He was about maybe 8 or 9 years old, maybe third grade, fourth grade.
9-year-old young black kid to say 5-0.
Yep.
5-0.
What should we do? Dude, it wasn't that he was misinformed. It's just that he has a history. He just 8 years old. And he already has an understanding that law enforcement doesn't mean any good. We want them to. And black people we don't want to get rid of police. We just want the same service that white people get.
Right,
because they used to have this slogan on their cars that say to protect and serve. Mm-hmm. I remember that. I don't know if they have it on their cars anymore. It says to protect
it depends on what department. They got different slogans. Everybody got a different slogan.
Right. But you remember that slogan. I think most people do.
Yeah.
Protect and serve.
Yeah.
But protect and serve who? And what they've shown to have done over time is to protect and serve the interests of the white ruling elite. That's what they've been known to do. Right. So I commend you on what you're doing. I don't trust police officers. I know I need them. I remember, let me give you an incident that happened with me. There's some drug dealing going on in my block. And I said, well, let's call the police. So my wife and I said, let's call them. Well, first I tried to talk to the brothers. Say, brothers, come on, y'all can't do this. I got grandbabies. Come on, brothers, y'all don't do this. Well, they didn't stop. So I said, I have no choice but to call the police. I was reluctant to call the police. I was reluctant. So I called the police, right? So the police come to my house. I invited them in. We talk and all that. So, I'm watching them. So they would leave my house. And they said, okay, we'll address that. They leave my house, go to the drug dealers that are right there and start talking to them about me calling the police on them.
Oh, damn.
Dude, this is true. They talked to the drug dealers about me calling the police on them.
They told on you.
Yes. And they pointed at me and said, your neighbor here says you out here doing drugs and they want you to stop. And after that, several months, my cars were vandalized, all of that, man.
I had a similar situation. I lived in St. Paul over on Aurora, and there was a bar around the corner called the Gopher or the Badger, right on University and Grotto, right there.
I remember that. Yes.
And then that little strip of Grotto from University to Fuller, while I lived there, was just a little drug haven. I mean, you couldn't drive down the street without somebody getting in front of you asking you what you need. You got people over there doing things, by the alley, smoking, selling, whatever. And the same thing you just said, I called the cops, but I had them on the phone. They didn't want to come down to my house. And they told me, ain't nothing we can do. We had to catch them in the act. And I'm like, if you came over here and just watched them, you catch them in the act. Mm-hmm. And back then we had a guy named Ron Pauline. You probably know him, Al.
I know Ron Pauline.
Sure know Ron.
Selby area CDC, I think he ran.
Yes. Summit. It was Summit something, but I bought my house from
him and Shem Shakur used to work together. Him and Shem Shakur. Remember Shem?
Okay.
Yes.
But Ron Pauline had cameras. He put cameras up around the neighborhood.
I remember that.
And he was recording people. And I don't know if he got people locked up, but Ron was one of those community activists that will walk up and down the alleys with a stick and run people off. And when he moved to Florida, God, that was when things got worse, because that was right on his corner, 5 blocks from his house. But those kids was off the hook. And I understand what you're saying. They didn't finger me. The cops didn't finger me, but they kind of fingered me from a distance, like, oh, we can't help you.
Right. So my point is, and so let me ask you this question. You talked about the stop that happened with Philando. Mm-hmm. Did he have a busted taillight? Was that an excuse to stop? Okay, so again,
but let me be honest. I don't know if the tail light was out because after what happened with the shooting, everything that guy said, him being a suspect, that was gone. The tail light being out, that was gone. The focus was on the shooting. It wasn't on the other stuff.
Right.
But wasn't even talked about no more.
But the shooting wouldn't happen if he wouldn't have stopped him and I'll say he had a broken tail light, because
exactly
when I look at the you said he didn't have a body cam, the officer had the
dashboard cam.
The dashboard cam. When you look at the dashboard cam, there's no broken tail light.
Exactly. Okay.
Right. So
I think that was one.
He made up a lie because he saw a black man in the car, and he perceived him as a threat, and then stopped him.
It's just horrible.
He didn't do anything wrong. Philando didn't do anything wrong. In all due respect, even though you mentioned, I think in some of your comments, well, he could have done this and we could have done that and we could have done that, and we always make those excuses about ourselves, and what that does is reinforce the trauma. Well, maybe if he would have done this and that just reinforces the trauma. What it says is he could have had there may be a valid reason. Well, I don't know what reason. Again, a tail light or anything like that. It doesn't amount to a death sentence.
No, God, no.
You know what I'm saying? It's not punishable by death.
No,
right?
No, none of that's punishable.
I get what you said. I understand why the brothers are running. I understand why they're cautious. Because my heart beats. You said it yourself. My heart beats. And I'm like, what? Am I going to make it out? Am I going to be able to call my wife? Matter of fact, I have my phone sitting up like that. And then my plan is to, every time a cop comes, I'm going to push my camera to start my, your
recording
already.
Right.
You have a dash cam in your car? You have a cam in your car? Okay.
Just start recording,
mm-hmm.
right? So I know this brother named Thomas Berry has an app called 12 Watch, right?
Yeah.
Which begin to record police encounters, and so check that out. I encourage people to get that. I'm not trying to promote the product. I'm just saying,
right.
I think that's something like that is something that I think every black person needs to have in their community. I believe that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So anyway, I just want to say that thank you for doing what you're doing. I commend you for doing it. It's hard work. Again, you was on the post board, so you have familiarity with police, those kinds of things. Let's see how it works, man. I just want to say that I don't think it's just. I think the culture of policing has to change.
Definitely.
I think all of the stuff that we're doing, and it still won't change until the perceptions that law enforcement have about us as black people, that has to change. Unless that changes, there's nothing we can do to keep them from killing us. Let me just comment on the ICE piece too. And you talk about ICE coming in.
Yeah.
They came in with masks.
Yeah.
Right. So before they hit the streets, they had masks on. So if it's legitimate, if it's above board, if it's law, if it's we got to get these immigrants out, why do you have masks? Why wear masks? Let us see your face. Because if it's above board, let us see your face. Period. I think that's just number one. Let us see your face. And they're not. Even now, they're not. We don't see who they are.
I believe with the type of marching orders that they had, that's how they come in. That's part of their group strength, is not for people not to know who they are.
But if you're legal,
as an individual, and the reason it's legal is because they have federal backup. They have federal okay.
No, I'm saying if the detainees, if they're going out getting illegal immigrants, first of all, let me just say that if they're going out, then it's legal for them to do, which means they shouldn't wear masks because they're protected.
They
right?
shouldn't.
And then you talk about deportation. Everybody knows that Barack Obama was considered, people called them the deporter in chief. He deported more immigrants than any other president ever, and even more than even what President Trump is doing. But he didn't do it like this. There was no civilians murdered. He wasn't busting in houses, shaking down doors, taking out immigrants half naked in 0-degree weather. Dude, he didn't do it like that.
He's locking up little kids, putting kids in jail.
Handcuffing kids.
Yeah.
Barack Obama didn't do it like that, and he was successful at removing hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants. And so what I'm saying is this is not above board at all. This is to oppress Black and brown communities, to terrorize us, to put fear in us, to say we're going to do what it is we want to do to you, and that's it. Period. You know, threaten people. I mean, pretty and good. That never should have happened. That's all.
Let me shout out Mike. Let me shout out Mike V in the chat. He says Philando was unjustifiably stopped 46 times prior to the incident that ended his life. And he said he'd love to see the data over the past 30 years for Minnesota police and their interactions with Black people versus white people. And he also said regarding the comments you just made on ICE that you also have folks impersonating ICE agents with masks, and they're showing up in counterfeit uniforms. So we don't really know who's who at this point. How could that be? I mean, that's like
why you
having
gotta take the mask off. That's why the mask got to come off.
Yeah.
Because you do have people who are imposters, and women be. I've been hearing stories of women being abused. Right? They're saying, "We at your door. You got to let us in." Right? We're ICE. And I mean, anything can happen to people, man. And so that shows that their means or their motives were nefarious, and their intent was nefarious at the jump, and still are.
So anybody before you go, if you're watching or want to be in the conversation, drop a note in the chat. Let us know where you're listening from or watching from. Make a comment, questions or statements. We welcome that. This is us talking to us and the world. So thank you for tuning in, and wherever you are, let us know where you are and raise a question or make a point. Go ahead, Brother Clarence.
I lost my train of thought, but go ahead. Somebody else. I can't think of what I was going to say. I was going to respond to something about what we were talking about, and I lost my train of thought.
Okay.
Well, when I was doing a lot more lobbying, registered lobbyist, when I was doing a lot more lobbying, there was a bill. I never moved it yet, but because I didn't get enough support after talking with a lot of legislators, and that is to do drug testing of police officers after incidents like that. Right? They don't do it. And the research, so what happens is when they kill us, they do testing of us to see if we got drugs in our system. Am I correct? Right? And they say, oh, you know, Tamir Rice had this, right? Or whoever had drugs in his system. And talk about the drugs in it. He had weed in his system. Mike Brown had marijuana in his system. And they talk about this. And it's like, okay, what about the police officer? Did he have drugs in his system? Right? Because my research shows that law enforcement is one of the professions with some of the highest drug and alcohol abuse ever. Law enforcement, doctors, firefighters, I think, and I can't remember the whole list, but law enforcement is one of the top 5 drug and alcohol abuse that they have. Why don't they test police officers more often, particularly when officer involved shootings? And so when I was moving a bill at the legislature to say, hey, let's pass this bill so that when an officer kills a civilian, they are immediately tested. They got to give a hair sample, you know, come behind this van, let's get in this truck, you need to pee in this cup. And then they test the police officers, right? And I got a few senators that said they were moving, but several people said, ooh, they didn't want to touch it. But I still think that should happen. I believe that law enforcement officers should be tested for drugs in officer-involved shooting, particularly if somebody is murdered.
And I agree with you 100%. And along with that, they should have psychological evals as well, you know, after a police officer involved shooting, you know, because like you said, there's a lot of things that could be going on, you know, in their lives that have them react a certain way. When Phil was shot, there was one of the things that I advocated for is to know exactly what that cop was going through 2 or 3 hours before he got to where he was at. What kind of mood was he in? I kind of had this idea that there was some sort of hazing possibly going on. He could have been had peer pressure or something like that, you know, perform a certain duty or do something, you know, to prove to us that you are, you know, are with us. You know, you never know. It was just, I had all kinds of questions, and you know, I was basically led down a rabbit hole that those kind of questions we can't ask. You just don't ask those kind of questions.
Right.
And I didn't think that was right. You know, I mean, we need to know everything and what this man's psychological profile was before he got into this situation with Phil, because it didn't start with Phil. I felt like it started before he came to Phil. If he's saying he was looking at a suspect from a week ago, this thing started a week ago. It didn't just start today, but they didn't. I was told at that particular time they weren't concerned about what his mind frame was a day ago. They just were focusing on right then and right there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as a citizen, we tend to have a different perspective than what police and district attorneys and county attorneys and, you know, the perspective they may have. You know, us as law-abiding citizens, we see things in a little bit different way. And, you know, sometimes we can't get the answers, the questions answered in a satisfactory way. And that was the whole thing with the shooting of Phil, you know, and again, with the shooting of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, you know, we're getting the same thing all over again. You know, that's what I see. I see the same injustice from 2016 to right now that started back in 1786 or whatever. You know, the same type of injustice, you know, with slavery. I mean, it was about, this whole thing is about money. It's about money, you know. It's just a lot that we have to focus on and be careful of and teach our people how to handle certain things.
Yeah. You know, you talk about
Boyce Jones drops a comment saying the message is that government is saying we're going to keep our knees on your neck, and he says that the subsequent Black Lives Matter blowback reinforces the message of the power of organized protest as a successful tool that has to be squashed. And Minneapolis, he said, was a test case that went woefully awry. No coincidence that both assassins symbolically had the same temperament as Derek Chauvin. So thanks for the comment.
Sir. Well, thank you. Let me say to Boyce, if I can respond, I don't know what awry. I think it went the way they wanted it to go. I'm just being honest with you. You know, the intent was to terrorize, and if somebody gets killed in the process, so what? They're just casualties in a war that we have against these people. Right?
And it was the marching orders of the government is that come in here and hurt people.
Yes.
Just tear their butts up.
Yeah.
Tear their butts up. Put your mask on and go over there and do whatever you think you can do, whatever you want to do in Minnesota. I mean, I have never in my life seen somebody get maced directly in the eyes at 2 inches. At 2 inches.
2 inches.
I mean, that to some people, if you have any type of allergy, that would kill you. Mm-hmm. The mace would kill you.
It will. Because, I mean, those films are so powerful. You can spray that hundreds of feet away, and people can still feel the mist in their eyes.
But just imagine it being inches from your eyes.
Yes.
Inches from your mouth, your nose.
Could I ask you another question, Brother Clarence? Is you talk about your relationship with Target and how Target has supported this work. How do you do that in the context of now this present boycott that many are having against Target? How's that affected Target support for you? But how do you rectify partnering with them and yet the community boycott against them?
So when we talk about Target, community boycott, first thing I think of the DEI situation when the president laid out this thing to certain large corporations and used fear tactics. If they didn't cut out DEI, that the president would take something from them or put them on a blacklist or something like that. And a lot of the large corporations, they fell for it. You know, they drank the Kool-Aid or whatever and say, okay, we're going to dismantle our DEI projects, and took a lot of small Black businesses off of their shelves. which at that point it caused a lot of boycotts as well, and I can understand why. I mean, I thought it was really, really unfair. I mean, but our president has done a whole lot of things that are unfair. So, but with this ICE thing that's been coming up lately, and for ICE to go to Target and subject those 2 guys that got drug out of there, the guys that were legally here, I believe they had citizenship, and they were still drug out of Target, in handcuffs and taken away. So the boycotts, I believe, are the community saying to Target, we need you to speak up. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of Minnesota Fortune 500 companies that have spoken up by signing petitions saying that they want ICE out. They have collected funds and built more or less a war chest to, not a war chest, but a chest to support the community. A lot of these Fortune 500 companies, larger companies in the state of Minnesota have donated funds, and they've raised lots of money. When I say lots, it could be several $1 million to help the community. In the way that it has supported our organization throughout this whole, Target started working with us in 2024. That was before the ICE thing even started. And we got our last donation from them just in December here. And we were well on our way to the occupation, because that's what it was. It's an occupation. It's not a whatever they're saying it is. But Target has been very supportive with us to come into the community to help bring the resources of our Lights On program. That's been their aim, to help the community. But as far as the DEI stuff, I don't know what they've done as far as bringing, Black products back to their shelves, the small businesses. I'm not sure about what they've done in that area. But I'm still a Target guy. I mean, I really don't go there much. I just don't. But I can. I can.
Yeah, I just got to be honest. I haven't shopped at Target since we.
That's what I'm saying. I don't go there much, but I can. I go to Walmart. It's like right there too.
Yeah. Let's be honest. We don't have a lot of options, alternatives. We can move around, but we need to have our own stores. We need to be able to shop.
We need things. We need things.
Kind of stuff happens, because there's certain things that you have and you can't get them anywhere else at a price that's affordable to you. But I haven't done it. And again, I'm not going to decry people who do. I just wanted to know how that relationship is going with you in your work. That's what I'm.
Well, right now, the relationship is still good. We're still talking to Targets and planning on doing the streets and sidewalk and streets events. This starting in the spring in April. We'll be doing our first sidewalk and streets event, and Targets will, I'm sure, be a big part of that.
What is the event again? Describe the event again.
It's called Sidewalk and Streets. What it is, it's a community engagement event where we have different vendors, community vendors, come out and showcase whatever their resources may be. We may have, if we're in Hennepin County, Human Resources may come. Mm-hmm. Minneapolis Fire Department may come. Different police departments in Hennepin County may come. We may have the sheriff there. We might have Minneapolis Police there. We might have Parks Department there. And they'll all help out with giving out vouchers and stuff like that. And then, the other people are showing the different resources that they bring. And we're tabling, and they're giving out swag, and we're raffling off bikes, and we're having hamburgers and hot dogs. And, Q Bear may be there, your friend from over there, Q Bear, so we have a lot of fun with that, and we get some good work done.
Let me share a couple of headlines that we can react to. That's kind of down the same vein. I pulled together just some hot topics, and one of them having to do with the ICE occupation, as you described it. And the title of this particular blurb is ICE Leadership Defends Mass deportation campaign before Congress. It says top immigration officials, including the acting head of ICE, testified before the House Homeland Security Committee this week, vigorously defending the agency's aggressive deportation operations and saying agents will not be intimidated amid growing criticism. Democrats pressed tough questions about enforcement tactics and the deaths of civilians during federal operations, while Republicans largely supported the administration's approach. Why this is important? This is a high-profile hearing, and it's shaping the national debate on immigration enforcement, on congressional oversight, and accountability for federal agents. I watched some of, is it Kristi Noem's testimony yesterday, and it was horrific.
Pam Bondi, I think, right?
Pam Bondi.
Yeah, Pam Bondi.
Pam Bondi. Unbelievable.
Yes.
Let me read one more and then just have you guys react to it. Second headline is White House and Democrats clash over ICE reforms and DHS funding. Lawmakers are deadlocked in negotiations over possible restrictions on ICE's conduct. Democrats are rejecting the latest White House proposal as insufficient and are pressing for stringent reforms tied to Homeland Security funding, raising the prospects of another partial government shutdown if a deal isn't reached. Why is this important? The funding deadlines are imminent, and the battle over ICE reforms is now a central flashpoint in Congress between the White House and Democratic leaders. The third one says a federal judge blocks key ICE policy changes. In a significant legal check on the administration's immigration agenda, federal courts have temporarily blocked Department of Homeland Security limits on ICE oversight and halted plans to end temporary protected status, TPS, for Haitian migrants. That's a move that would have made hundreds of thousands subjected to deportation. Why this is important? These court rulings directly affect national immigration policy and the reach of ICE enforcement powers. So, James, respond to that if you would.
Well, you mentioned a lot. So, which one? The final one? Any one of those? The last one with the Haitian, piece. I think it's critically important for us to understand, what the power of the courts, right? So we have the power of the courts. So judges were able to block this piece at this point. That doesn't mean that Donald Trump or this regime is not going to try to appeal this in some way, shape, or form. And so we need to be, watching what goes on there. I saw some of the testimony yesterday with the hearing with Pam Bondi yesterday, and she was very,
defensive.
Let me say reluctant, if not, just really nasty, I guess. I don't know what the right word to say at this point. But trying to defend what it is she is they are doing, right? She was really aggressive. Matter of fact, virtually I saw some of the footage. She was ignoring some of the questions that were asked of her of the DFL or the Democratic members of the committee, very curt with them, and so it was kind of amazing. But it didn't help that the chair of the committee is Jim Jordan, who was a friend and colleague of Donald Trump. So it didn't help that the chair was him. So the Dems were not able to really do much with her. But I like Jasmine Crockett. I like the way Jasmine Crockett handled the situation. I saw that exchange. I saw a few other exchanges, but she was just very resistant, and I think that it shows, what it shows is this regime and how it acts and how it wants to interact with regular citizenry. They have no intention on backing down, and they want to continue to move forward. And justify what they're doing in our communities. So, that's my take on it at this point.
Well, let's call it quits there, guys. Our hour is up. But Clarence, I wanted you to invite people to support the microgrants program. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah,
and you are
take a minute to invite people to support you and be aware.
Yes, they can go to our website. We have a donate button on the website, which is Lights On Minnesota. You can give there at Give Butter, and we are working very hard in our community to make our streets safer by getting people's headlights and taillights turned on. Mm-hmm. And we support you through that way. And then there's microgrants, which helps citizens do some sort of educational stuff, building your small business if you have one, to help you build your small business. And when the time is right, you go to our website and we'll give you information on different agencies, partner agencies that you can work with, and they'll help you fill out an application and try to qualify for one of our microgrants. And it'll be happening in April.
There we go. James, contact for you.
James_public policy project at msn.com. You can reach me there. So yeah.
Okay, listen, guys, thanks. What a wonderful conversation. Brother Clarence, keep up the good work. James, always great to hang out with you. Love your wisdom, your insight, and your analysis. We'll be here again tomorrow. Tomorrow's program is called The Healing Circle, but we're staying focused on the issue at hand. All of it is about healing and us becoming our best selves in community, us understanding our role and our potential as sovereigns in a space that ought to look like us, reflect our sense of dignity and our sense of value for all humankind. I'm Al McFarland. I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Good night, gentlemen.